Okay, so welcome to the first Brant Connects Joint Committee meeting. Attendance has been taken and I will proceed with the election of chair and vice chair. So before we begin, I just want to recognize that because this meeting is being held virtually, there is no mechanism for a secret ballot. So any votes that will be held by the raising of hands in open session. And if there is a tie, the selection will be done so by lot. So with that all said, do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Councillor David Miller, and I don't know that he is with us. Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Councillor Miller, do you accept?
Normally I would, but I think for an advisory committee, it's best if we have somebody that's not on council as chair. So I'm going to politely decline, but I appreciate the nomination.
Okay. Have any other nominations? Pam?
I'd like to nominate Sue Morton.
Sue, do you accept the nomination?
Sure. With the stipulation that I will need some help on procedure with county meetings. If you can help me with that, I'm willing to take it on.
Okay. Are there any more nominations? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close nominations, please?
So move, Briar.
Councillor Miller. Sorry. And could I have a seconder? Rick. Okay, Sue, you are now the chair. Apologies, I'm just making all my minutes.
You may never speak to me again.
Or me.
Okay, so I'm now looking for nominations for vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair?
I wonder if Councillor Miller would agree to be vice chair on our request, only because we certainly love to see you, and we wanted to have a county rep as sort of also on the leadership side of things. Would you consider that, Councillor?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put my hat in the ring. And anybody else is so I hope they do so.
So that's an exception from Councillor Miller. And do I have any more nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close nominations?
I so move.
Thank you. Rick, Dave. Okay, Councillor Miller, you are now the vice chair. So.
Congratulations.
Okay, so thank you. I'm now just going to pass the meeting to the chair, so Sue, who will lead the remainder of the meeting, and I will help you out as well, Sue.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So information exchange, we're on to number 4. Apologies on that other phone ringing. 4.1, existing technology applicable to internet service within the county of Brant. And I believe, James Rickert, you're going to speak to this.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Sue. Russ and I will be actually speaking through this. Russ is going to be sharing his screen and advancing the slides, and I'll try to keep up to him advancing the slides. So if we have Russ share his screen.
Is it working?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
As long as you don't expect me to read that print.
Oh.
Sorry, let me just move this over here, see if I can make that a little bigger for you. How's this?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm talking about the stuff on the left. Sorry, Russ. As
Oh,
long as I don't have to read that aspect. This is okay here in the main screen. It's over on the left. I just can't
Let
read
me
that.
see if I can't help you with that. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay here.
Yep.
Downtown St. George, yay.
Yes, recognize that picture.
Is that better?
That's better. Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting us to talk about what the County of Brant is doing for technology within the County of Brant. If I have Russ go to the next slide, please. What I would like to do is have a brief overview.
There we are.
There we go, a little bit different screen now. Have a brief overview on what the Business and Technology Solutions team is and what we're not. So the Business Solutions team is a group of staff that work within the Corporate Services Division of the County of Brant. We're a team of 14. We do have several different aspects to it. We're not your traditional IT department. We have many different aspects to my group. We have a wide discipline of different sections, and I'm just going to quickly go through those so you can see that we're not just about networking, we're not just about servers, we're not just about application development, we're a wide spectrum. So part of my group's mandate is project management. We typically run between 25 to 35 different projects at any one given time. These range, and I've given you 4 examples here. These range from recreation park booking software. That is a solution that we've been working on for the last several months. That just went in place this past January. And anything where they, from kids booking the pool, booking the arena, booking day camps, all go through that software. So that's something that we were in charge of putting in place. The asset management, work order management solution is something that's going to be used by all the county. Every department has an asset. They have work orders that go against that asset. We're putting a solution in place for that. So just to give you an example, we're not just about hardware, we're about software. We have a help desk group that supports all part-time, full-time, and volunteer staff at the county. We support over 300 PCs. We have over 250 different mobile devices, that's phones, tablets, and that such. We manage 91 different software platforms, so we're the first line of support for anything that the county staff use on the machines. Next slide. We also have the Geographic Information System group that is the centralized mapping solution, and we're going to see some of their stuff later on. They help each department. Every department has their own mapping group, but our centralized group helps them with the systems to make sure that works. They work on data management, desktop solutions, field data collection, and web mapping for the public to see the mapping. We also run the drone program that's been very successful in the county over the last 5 years. We do mapping surveys, pit volumes, subdivision planning, bylaw inspections for every different department. We do videography for Russ's group in the economic development and tourism for promotional short videos. We also work with emergency services at the EOC center. So if there is a disaster in the county, we are involved with the drone. And recently we've teamed up with the fire and rescue services to perform drone footage with our thermal camera during a fire to help and assist the fire operations manage fires from the sky. We have our network server and storage section, and that's a section that's probably more relevant to this group because they're in charge of the network. Now we have wired and wireless solutions in the county. We support staff network, staff Wi-Fi, and public Wi-Fi. The public Wi-Fi be more interested in this group. Server and storage, we have application servers and data storage like any other IT department. And then we also have a very strong foothold in cybersecurity regarding penetration testing, intrusion testing, and very large training aspect. As most cybersecurity is not a technical thing, it's more of a social engineering issue. So we have a lot of training for staff on cybersecurity. Next slide. So that was an overview of what the technology group is at the County of Brant. We are an internal service. We work for corporate services, so we work for all the different departments. The only thing that we do externally is the public Wi-Fi, and that's more of an added value that we provide to the public at all of our different arenas. So what does the County of Brant network comprise of? Fiber optics. We do have our own fiber optics that are separate from our internet service provider. We have our own wireless towers. We have cellular networks, and we have our internal building cabling system. So currently we have 56 different facilities that we network within the county, and those are county facilities. The major connection to all these are fiber optics. We have dark fiber. So dark fiber is a dedicated fiber optic network to each one of these buildings. We do have a growing list of wireless locations, and what we're doing with our wireless locations is we're making that our backup. So our primary solution is fiber optic. If a fiber optic line is cut, we do have a wireless solution from building to building to make sure that there is connectivity between all of our facilities. The facilities that we service, examples are the customer service offices, arenas, the work yards, water treatment plants, recreation locations. You might have seen most recently in the news that we actually are gearing up and working with parks and facilities on providing public Wi-Fi in a selection of different county parks for the attendees of the park to be able to get access to Wi-Fi at each park. So this next portion, I'm going to be taking over the screen. I have a few slides to go through first, but we're going to show what we've been able to do to gather information to help make decisions based on where we have fiber optics, where we don't have fiber optics, where there's a concern in the county for public on getting fiber optics. And Dave, I think you have a piece on here that you want to talk about also. So at the end of my section, when we talk about the mapping, I'll just let you jump in on that too. So if you proceed to the next slide. So we have put together, my GIS team has put together a broadband mapping site for this team to take a look at. And what we've done is we've tried to make it a common picture so we all are on the same board on what is out there and what needs to happen yet. This pulls information from multiple locations like the Ministry of Infrastructure, from SWIFT, from the County of Brant ourselves, from BME, from Spectrum Management, who looks after certain towers. So this is a site that's managed by the county, but the data is being hosted and shown on the site from multiple different locations. Next slide, please. So the data that's hosted on the site, I'll show the SWIFT mapping, where they're going to be doing projects. And there was an announcement that went out today that we can talk about too, regarding the SWIFT project in the County of Brant. BME Fiber, so Brant Municipal Enterprise through Brant Fiber, we used to have as the County of Brant. That's been sold off to ExploreNet, so I can show you where we had fiber optics as a County of Brant. That's been sold to expand the ExploreNet fiber optics network. Network transceivers, which are radio towers that are used by Bell, Rogers, so you can take a look across the county where these towers are. And then broadband accessibility, and this is where David might want to jump in a little bit, is that we do have these strange looking polygons all over the county to show what areas have access to 5010, which is CRTC's and the province's understanding of what high speed internet is, 50 down and 10 meg up. So we can go into that. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I think you might have to stop sharing your screen. Right. Okay, so are you able to see my screen? All right, yeah, so
Yes.
this mapping site is a very generic mapping site that we put out as the county for all of our mapping activities. This specific site was set up for the County of Brant broadband coverage. We use these for planning, we use them for ECDEV, we use them for operations, but this one's specifically set up, and we'll share this URL that you guys will be able to access this from home then too. So what this site is, has a map on the main screen and then an information panel down the side here. This information panel, you can switch between the different layers that we're showing, and I'll jump through those. When you were entered into the site, what you get is an outline of the County of Brant in this dark gray. On the inside here, you'll see the orange outline, and those are settlement boundaries. The green lines are the SWIFT funded projects that are going to happen in the County of Brant, and that notification, just that media release was put out today. So on the site here, you can use the plus and minus signs to zoom in, or you can draw a box and zoom in. So we'll just zoom into this area here. And you can see more detailed information about the actual SWIFT project. You can see where they're going to be putting lines in, and these will be built by the end of July, I think, in 2023. You can pan around the map to see different information, where they're going, where they're not going. One interesting thing that we've done here is we're able to show you different layers. So right now we're looking at the SWIFT funded 5010 web layer. This is being sent to us directly from SWIFT. So if they ever change their line work, it automatically changes on the screen here too. So you're able to turn that on and off to see where it's not going. Other things that we've added in here are the Brant Municipal Enterprise Fiber prior to us selling it to ExploreNet. We don't have access to ExploreNet or to Rogers or to Bell on where their fiber optics are, but we thought we'd throw on here where the County of Brant's Brant Municipal Enterprise fiber optic was running. So same thing as the SWIFT layer. We can turn the SWIFT layer back on. The SWIFT layer is in green. You can see where the SWIFT projects are going. You can see where Brant Municipal Enterprise at one time had fiber optics, which was sold to ExploreNet. So ExploreNet now has access to this to expand their fiber optics givings. You can also turn on network transceivers, and they're broken down in color by the different service provider like Fido, Bell, Execulink, and you'll be able to see where those towers are. We don't have it where they show the broadcasting band of where those towers cover, only for the fact that involves topology, lay of the land, hills, valleys, trees, that kind of stuff. So it's not just a perfect circle around each one of these towers, but you can see where these towers are. In addition to that, and this is where Dave might have some conversations is the broadband accessibility. And this is provided by the Ministry of Infrastructure through their icon and SWIFT and there are other services on there. So what these polygons show, and I know it might be a little bit confusing, but I'll try to step through it. So you can see the outline of Paris here. You can see where Brantford is, where you can see where Burford is. If you click on one of these polygons, it would give you the coverage of service in that area. So for instance, the Burford area has a population of 500 plus inside this polygon, and 50 to 75% of those populations have access to what they classify as high speed, 50/10, so 50 meg down and 10 meg up. That doesn't mean everybody in that area has that, but everybody in that area has access to that, or 50 to 75% of the people in there have access to that. So if you'll take a look at the different colors on the screen, the blues and darker blues, that represents on the side on the legend over here. So you can see 0 to 25% would be this polygon here. If you click on that, you can see that 250 to 500 population and less than 25% of those people have access to the high-speed internet service in that area. So when we zoom out, you can just see how that coverage falls across the county. The areas that are fully gray, that have no color, those are areas that have 0% of people have access to 50 down or 10 up internet coverage. One thing we found on their site that we pulled into ours is this current availability wireless access. So this is wire and wireless access by road network. So in addition to what the broadband has with their polygons, we were able to find information based on the road network. So anything that's in green, the road network that's in green, let me just zoom in here so you can see. Anything that's in green has access along that roadway to 50 down and 10 up. Anything in blue has 25 down and 5 up. So this just gives us an understanding of the coverage of what type of services our population should expect from their service providers. It doesn't say what service provider, but at least there's a service provider that will be able to give them 25 down and 5 up or 50 down and 10 up in those areas. Now, I think, Dave, you had some concerns regarding the mapping that was being provided by the Ministry of Infrastructure.
Right, and thank you. These maps are wonderful, by the way, James. Good job on them. And I'm going to defer to you always on the technical, because I'm not a technical guy. But from what I understand, for example, this map that you're showing here that shows the road, the coverage on the roads, my understanding is that it's extrapolated through some kind of algorithm that they use based on the wireless coverage in the area. So I think you said it doesn't mean that people actually have this speed or even access, but the internet companies provide it based on some kind of algorithm extrapolation of the wireless service in the polygon. If that, I'm sorry to use all those stupid words, but so that was one of our concerns back when we were presenting to you guys, was these polygons are great, but our concern was that if the ISPs provide these data to the government, because that's where they get it from, and funding is based on areas that don't have high speed as they define it, 50 down, 10 up, then the county, parts of the county, were not going to be able to get it. I mean, that's the short version of it. Recognizing that there's all those other fiber lines and things that you're talking about. This mapping that ISED has is what we understand Infrastructure Ontario is using in the reverse auction process. I mean, we don't know, but that's my assumption. So, and that's just one aspect of our concern. There's other things associated with the broadband strategy that we want to talk to the county about or work with you on. So, but that's it in a nutshell.
And I have to agree with you. We're pulling this from the Ministry of Infrastructure. So we're basing our information on what they're basing their information on. And again, I would assume and agree with you that that's probably what they're using for the to base their investigations on too. Where are they getting this information from? I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. So.
Yeah, because there is no service on those roads. I mean, let's face it, there is wireless in the areas, right, in those polygons, but there is no service on those roads. So somebody who's on, road X out there, who's a farmer or a small business operating from their home, it shows that they're served by 25/5 or even 50/10, but they're not. So, and it doesn't sound, James, like there's really anything better out there, I guess, right?
Mapping wise, I would say no. In the county, we would not have access to this, and we don't have the resources to be able to have staff go out with their phones and do speed tests every 25 meters to make sure that this is correct, right? So,
well, one idea, and this might be a good time just to throw it out there, that I've read about in other jurisdictions where they have this, because let's face it, this is not a problem unique to Brant County, is some third party, and I should back up, a lot of the internet companies, it's quite possible that they want to limit competition in the areas that they serve. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but it's a possibility. And so they may show areas that are served that might not be as well served as they say. So other jurisdictions have had sort of crowd-based, for lack of a better expression, broadband information coming in from businesses and people who live in the jurisdiction. They take their speed tests according to some, not overly rigid, but some criteria. You have to submit it, you have to take it at certain times of the day, you have to give your latitude and longitude and all this information, who your service provider is. And they provide that to the third party, not the internet companies. And then it's mapped. And then it kind of provides a way for you to see actually what people are getting in these areas, without the third party having to devote all the resources to going out with your cell phone and holding it there, and as you were just saying.
So Dave, that's a perfect lead into my next couple slides.
Okay.
So maybe we'll defer your comments on to the next couple of slides. But before that, David Miller has it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to ask a quick question. So you said you were going to share the this website with us?
Yeah,
James?
we'll through this group, we'll send out a link to this website.
Okay. Yeah, it is a little disturbing that the MOI will be using that in their rollout of broadband, because I'm sure there's a few gaps in that. So yeah, I guess that looks like one of the things we'll have to tackle then, maybe as a committee, is to identify those areas that are clearly not. I mean, I'm just looking at it. I'm on a 25.5 road, and I can guarantee you I do not have 25.5. So I'm sure that's not the only error in this whole map. So yeah, it's a little, like I said, it's a little bit bothersome to see that they're going to be relying on this. I don't know if they're going to be relying exclusively on this, but again, maybe as a committee, that's something we can delve into. And if we got to help do some mapping, then
yeah, I totally agree with you, Councillor Miller. Is the fact that I'm also in a rural area. I just live south of Drumbo, outside of this area. My road says it's 25.5. I do have wireless internet through Bell. They guarantee that I get 25.5, and I do get 25 down, but I don't think I ever got above 2 up on my speed test. So they say there's 25.5 in these roads, but they can't probably guarantee that. And that's one thing that you have to look at the private industry's model behind that, right? So.
yeah, okay. Mark it down with something to work on. Got it.
But if I can, I just wanted to thank you, James, for this information, because it's wonderful. It really is great to have it all on one map and different layers and that sort of thing. It is really helpful. So thank you.
So maybe I'll just do a quick run through it again. When you launch the page, let me just refresh here. When you launch the page, you'll get a little disclaimer saying that this is the best knowledge of the county, blah, blah, blah. Just say okay to that. And to zoom in, you just use the plus and minus arrows here. Or if you hit your shift key, you can click and drag a box. That'll let you zoom in. To change layers on and off, you just go to the layers level here. And then you can just turn off and on or expand the different layers to get those different layers. So we tried to make it as simplistic as possible. It's a very technical site, but we tried to make it as simplistic as possible on that. One thing I do want to sort of highlight is these quick statistics based on the information that I was just showing you. We did some analysis on here. So 23.8% of the roadways in the county have access to 50 down and 10 up. So 28% or 23% of the roadways in the county have access to 50/10, according to the mapping that we were just showing. 32% of the 50/10 or higher services are available outside of the urban footprint. And 66% of county businesses fall within accessible distance of 50/10 service, based on the mapping that we were just showing you. So there is gaps there. You can see, you can say 66% of the county businesses have access to 50/10, but there's also the negative part to that. There is 33% that don't, right? So just some very high level statistics there to show you.
Just if I may, the question on this quick stats you've got here, you said 66.5 are within accessible range of the 50/10, and that's based on the map that you showed previously?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know if the map is not accurate, those stats are really not accurate. I'm on one of those blue roads that show I've got 50/10, and if I get 10 in the morning, I'm pretty lucky. And if I get 2 at night, you know, that's bonus. But
and that could, yeah, that goes back to the business model.
You know, if the maps look very rosy, and I'm thinking, oh, great, I should have all this service. But the fact is that the service isn't there, and again, you're probably going to tell us more about what's happening here, but just my 2 cents. Yeah,
I think we have to take in consideration that the service providers tell you that they'll give you 50/10 or they'll give you 25/5. But in reality, and I don't really want to slam the service providers because I'm not trying to be negative to them, is that in a lot of cases, that's a shared service. So you may get 25/5 at one point in time, but then your neighbor jumps on the service and then that neighbor jumps onto the service and it becomes a shared service. So they're providing you with access to 25/5. But if you're reading your contract, it's probably not a guaranteed 25/5. So that's the mapping might show that you should have access to 25/5, and you probably do have access to 25/5. But then when you add in all the other layers of complexity to that, you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting. So,
If I could just add to that, I think that's always been the major concern we've had. If they're going to give funding based on the mapping that shows the areas that are underserved, but that data is not accurate to begin with, then the whole thing kind of falls apart. So I guess I'm concerned about the amount of time we have available to even try to address that issue. And you mentioned not having the resources in the county, and certainly I can tell you the chamber doesn't have the resources to go out and map this either. But is there funding? Is there a way to hire students or something of that nature that we could send out there and do a blitz and gather some data to fight, against being told that we've got service levels where clearly we do not?
I don't have the answer to that. I think the closest answer was Dave mentioning about the third-party consultant going out there and doing testing outside of the actual service providers. That would probably be your closest.
Can I just bring up, because we talked about it just now, the wireless service tends to degrade, I think, as you add more customers. And I know what Swift has done is they've written into their service agreements with the ISPs for anybody that is doing the wireless, they have to guarantee the 50/10 for 7 years. And that's because that's how long the Swift agreements last. So that's how they're dealing with it. And it is checked, right? They do follow up. So something to think about.
Yeah, and that would be the people on these fiber optic lines. Okay, so to go back to the next part of my presentation, and Dave alluded to this already, was crowdsourcing. Now, when we were looking into this coverage issue that we're having, we came across this site, CRA. It's a privately funded, again, what you had said, Dave, crowdsourcing solution, and this is national, this is Canadian-wide, it's not just for our area. It's produced by a company called MLabs. Basically what you can do, and this is crowdsourcing, so you can do this from home, is that you go to the site, and I'll share this site to everybody in the group. You can go to the site, you can put in your service provider. Right now it's picked up automatically because the County of Brant goes through PacketWorks. It picks up and you can start a speed test. What it does is actually does a speed test for your time at that time, what you're getting. You can then, if you want, apply that to the map. And this is where it becomes interesting, because then we can zoom into our area down here in Southern Ontario. And all these little dots are crowdsourced speed tests. So if we zoom into, let's just zoom into this area, they get more specific to where they actually go. The further you're out, they generalize where the dots are, and as you get zoomed in, they become more specific. And I've done this test in my house 3 times, and it does stay on the site and it does work. So it's actually interesting. So you can pan around here, you can see this person did a test, and at the time when they did the test, they got 12 meg down. This person here got 28 meg down. So we can see across the county what crowdsourcing is saying they're getting versus what the province or the Ministry of Infrastructure is saying they will be getting. So I would suggest we publicize this so that we can start using this as a service. My only concern behind this, and speed tests, like Dave said, are very time and circumstance driven. So if I was at home on my internet that I get 25/5, when I do a speed test, I'm the only one at home. I turn off all of their services that's a true speed test to show what I get on 25.5. But if I'm home and my wife is home doing a video conference like this with her staff, and my son is at home playing games or watching YouTube, I'm only getting a portion of that 25.5 for the speed test. So it may look like I'm only getting 2 meg down, which I should be getting 15 meg down, but it's a shared 25. So when you look at these, there's no validation behind why you're getting 2 versus the 25. So we have to be careful on that too, right? So,
if I may, I
Sure.
can ask, so the current dots that are there, does that mean that when someone does a test, it automatically puts that dot there, or how does that work?
yeah, it automatically does. It tries to pick up your address where you're coming from. When I did it in my place, it was very close. It was within 500 meters of my house every time I did it. So you can move the dot around to say, no, it's this house, not that house. And it will then add that speed test to that location every time you do it. So you can do multiple speed tests at different times of the day, and it will pick that up on this crowdsourcing site.
So it would be an excellent thing for us to make public and start to see how that map really starts to look. If we ask them to be specific in how they test it.
Correct. Yeah, if you send out instructions, make sure you do it when nobody's home. Make sure that you only do it when your smart home devices are turned off. Like, make sure it's a true speed test, not what you're actually getting. I actually found this on the County of Wellington's website. The County of Wellington actually was promoting this for their citizens to use to do it. So maybe that's something that we do through the County of Brant's website, is that we promote this as one of the aspects from this team to allow more publicity to this actual site. I'm not saying this is the only site, but I'm saying this is a site that we found. So.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's great. And
Yeah.
just a little footnote on Wellington. They've done a lot of good things in Wellington, and so we can. There's no shame in copying somebody else's success. So let's. I love that idea, James. Once we sort of provide, I think your point is well taken. We need to provide the people who are doing the test with maybe some very simple guidelines so that they do it correctly. And we could do that, through our website or through the county website.
Yep. And in terms of time frame, what kind of time have we got to gather data before it doesn't matter anymore because the funding's already been determined in terms of who's getting what? Does anybody know that?
I think in the presentation we do talk a little bit further on about timeframes for that. I think Russ might be able to talk about. I don't know if there's specific timeframes or not, so we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
And I just want to show the example downtown here, and this is where we have to be careful. Is red is bad internet service, blue is good, white is okay. So for instance, they're only getting 5 meg down here, but their fairly close neighbor is getting 100 meg. And is that because this individual is subscribing to Bell's fiber optic network, and these people are only paying for a 5 meg connection, and that's what they're getting? Mm-hmm. So we have to take that too. It's not everybody. It's not an apples for apples test either. I'm on 25 meg, so the most I'm ever going to show on my connection is 25 meg. But Drumbo is just getting fiber optics in there, so all of a sudden they're going to show a hotspot of great service, but right beside it is poor service, right? So we have to take that into consideration also.
Right.
All right, Russ, I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless there's more questions about the mapping.
Thank you so much for bringing all that to us.
Can I just add a footnote? I don't maybe back to what you were saying, Sue, the current round of funding, I know we're going to talk about this with Infrastructure Ontario, but I'm hoping that when they do announce the funding to the ISPs, that they're able to be transparent. I hate to use that word, but that's what I'm talking about, to show that that area really doesn't have the service. and James, would you know if they're going to sort of release that information when they do their funding?
I'm not sure. No, I'm not aware.
Okay.
Honestly,
Really?
I participated in one webinar from the province. That was back in February, I believe, January, February, or it must have been January, saying that they're going to release more information in March. And that's pretty much what the webinar was about. So I haven't seen any more information come down, and you'll probably get the information just as fast as I will.
So I think, Sue, the short answer is we probably have a month or two or three, maybe. But even if it's after the fact, I think it's still valuable information just to, encourage people to do their tests, because as I understand it, the province's program is going to run till 2025. So, it may be that internet providers would come back later and rebid on work if there was an area missed or something. I don't know.
Okay, I mean, if we can give it a time frame, it might incent people to get their data into us too, if there's an urgency to it.
Yeah.
And it can help their situation. Okay, so Russ, are you going to speak now?
I am. My mind is not nearly as exciting and liberating as what James's was.
Okay.
But before I go on here, what I'm going to be talking about is basically now the program and timing that's been shared and from the province to the program to the county, what's been involved, what the county has taken action on and been involved with up to this point, of which many, I know, Dave and Sue and Pam, many of you are aware of this. I think it's just great that we just get everybody sort of on that same page of what the program is and where we are in the chronology of that program, what we've been doing, participating in. The same as what James just did with the actual technical aspect of it. And then from that will likely germinate is my thought, Madam Chair, will germinate actions that we can take and advice that we would be able to provide to council at that point. So with that being said, my presentation, we do jump a little bit back and forth, James and I. So I'll just continue on here and let me know if you cannot see the screen. You should be seeing 5.1 broadband general overview. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just continue on with this. So if we think of it as the funnel, the Ontario Connects is the Government Ontario program, which committed nearly $4 billion to connect every region in Ontario, as we know, to reliable high-speed internet by the end of 2025, and that's what the date that Dave was alluding to. The initiative is designed to connect the remaining underserved communities across Ontario, with ISPs can bid in a reverse bid process for provincial subsidies through a series of reverse auction events for defined geographic areas. So we think of the Ontario Connects as the overarching commitment to connecting all Ontarians with high-speed internet. This project is spearheaded by IO, Infrastructure Ontario, and is the overarching name for the process involved with the RFQ and RFP process. You come down a little bit further on that, the actual program that's been put in place is the Improving Connectivity for Ontario program, or ICON is what it's referred to. Launched in 2020, total investment of $1 billion over 6 years. July 2021, 13 projects were funded in Ontario, totaling almost $15 million to 42 communities. And in October 2021, 1.5 million connecting 900 homes across Ontario. And just as an aside, Burford, the area of Burford was part of that as well. ICON is the specific project with the overarching Ontario Connect within Ontario Connects program, connecting areas through the province. Going down a little bit further, and Councillor Miller, Co-Chair Miller, would be able to speak to this as well. Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology, SWIFT. So when we're talking about SWIFT, this is the what we're talking about here. The SWIFT project will provide high-speed internet to nearly 58,000 homes and businesses within the SWIFT region, of which the County of Brant is. Total project investment is $268 million, and SWIFT has awarded 97 total contracts to 19 ISPs to date. Total project value of $9,371,000 and change. The total premises passed, so the total number of addresses passed is close to 1,600, with eligible road kilometers arriving at 127. The County of Brant communities served in this project to date include Harrisburg, Harley, Fairfield Plain, Birch, Newport, and Middleport. And the project is estimated to be completed May 31st, 2023.
So just to add to that, Russ, the mapping that I showed when we first went to the mapping site, that SWIFT integrated, the green lines on the map, that's what this is referring to. This $9 million is referring to those green lines on the map that we had previously shown.
And just rounding out sort of this overall picture of the program, in terms of the ISP, or the Internet Service Provider auction, September 9, 2021. Infrastructure Ontario releases a request for qualifications to support the accelerated high-speed internet expansion in Ontario. Through this process, Ontario is divided into geographical regions, known as lots or service areas, that the ISPs can bid on. The opportunity to have to bid on that. November 30, 2021, 51 ISPs were qualified to respond to a request for proposal to support accelerated high-speed internet expansion. And successful proponents for the geographical lots are expected to be announced in spring 2022. And there's the 51, the listing here. As far as the County of Brant, so bringing that funnel down to the County of Brant, here's a little bit of a timeline. I will say, however, I don't know, Dave, if you're going to be sharing your tracker. Your tracker does a much better job of this, by the way, but captures a lot of information.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, I've been telling everybody. I've been heralding the praises of the tracker. This is the engagement with the County of Brant. So 2015 to 2019, in that date range there, first contribution from the County of Brant to SWIFT in 2015, total amount to SWIFT between that time period of 2015 to 19 has been $344,543. This leads to the $9 million investment between all partners, which I had given in the SWIFT part of the presentation. In February 2019, while supporting SWIFT's launching of an appeal with the CRTC regarding the Commission's broadband fund and its eligibility criteria and funding model. So the county supported that. In March 2019, participated in the presentation by Deputy Leader of the Ontario NDP caucus and MPP for Timiskaming Cochrane, John Van Thoff. The topic for discussion at the roundtable was broadband access. In May 2020, the county worked with our information services and BME to ensure Brant was included in phase 2 of the rural program of the CENGIN program. And that's a center of excellence for networking and that next generation of an invention. And I'm happy to provide the website to that for anyone that's interested. Some great work being done there as well. September 2020, BME discussions regarding internet challenges in St. George, Canesville, and Southeast Paris took place. Excuse me. And October 2020, and going on into June of 2021, connected with Brant Municipal Enterprises staff to discuss opportunities for less service areas. So this is something that happened directly in economic development, and our Senior Economic Development Officer, Zach Gable, was corresponding with a number of businesses and with BME staff, trying to do what we could to bring some connectivity and rectify some of those challenges that they were having. And what resulted from that was an opportunity that we were able to discuss in December of 2020, identified some opportunities with BME and the County of Brant operations staff to look at what were some activities that were on the books for scheduling of infrastructure, and would there be an opportunity to lay conduit into sort of envelope some of the necessary infrastructure that would bring connectivity to those areas. So those discussions happened, and operations was open to discussing those and working with us for sure. March 2021, liaise with, of course, the Chamber, the Patterson District Chamber of Commerce on broadband project, identifying and including conversations with SWIFT and WOWC. You'll see WOWC, that's the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And internal discussions, of course, of which are ongoing. Lease negotiations for ISP towers, and they're ongoing as well, both with economic development and James's team. That brings us up to date, for the most part, where we are here, and that brought us to this meeting here today. So that's the chronology of everything. I don't. Did you want me to continue on here, James, or did you want to?
I can take over the next couple slides if you want. So
go ahead.
Give you a break. So on 6.2, I know we're jumping all over the agenda, but Russ and I said let's just get through our portions, and then we can go back to the sections that fill in between. So 6.2, we were talking about the engagement with the County of Brant. To follow on what Russ had said, is that Brant Municipal Enterprise and ExploreNet, between the two of them, and now through ExploreNet. ExploreNet is the county's internet service provider. Through the agreement with the sale, we do have dark fiber between our facilities. So it is a ExploreNet fiber optic line, but we're guaranteed to have a dark fiber connection between our facilities with the sale of the actual Brant fiber. And so in 2021, Brant fiber was sold to ExploreNet for $4 million. To move on to that, what we're looking at doing is with towers is we have put up a few of our own towers in the county, and we have been contacted by service providers to also lease portions of our towers or lease lands that the county owns to be able to put towers up. We have successfully done that with Bell at the Burford Tower at the Burford Arena. If you look at, there's a large communication tower there. That's actually a tower built by Bell, but the land is leased to Bell for that. We're looking at doing the same thing with Canesville, and that's a project that Russ and my group are working on. We have requests at other towers, the South Dumfries Yard, Mount Vernon, St. George, and Mount Pleasant, from different service providers to actually lease land and put up those towers as well. So engagement with the county. The County of Brant, in association with Brant County Power and Brant Municipal Enterprises, put $2.6 million investment into fiber optics, which created the Brant Fiber group. The new County of Brant official plan, and this is done through Allison's group, is the County of Brant is working with the official plan to make sure that we strengthen the language to install utilities and telecommunication infrastructure at the time of subdivision development, earlier on in the process versus later. We've also worked internally that now that we do not have Brant fiber, the County of Brant does require fiber optics between certain facilities, that my department, the Business and Technology Solutions team, works with the operations teams internally, that when they do work on underground services, that we can throw conduit in there. So in the future, if we want to put communication lines through, that those conduits are in the ground already prior to having to bore or drill or plow lines through. We'll continue on, Russ.
Great. Thanks, James. Just a quick point, the official plan, that's a big piece that we're going through right now. And for this to be injected into the official plan really is appreciative of that. The official plan is done through Pam Dusling's Development Services and General Manager Pam Dusling and Jennifer Boyer's team. So they're currently working on that. Just wrapping up the last two slides here, Madam Chair, continuing on with the engagement that the county's been taking involvement in regarding broadband and connectivity. County of Brant has leased portions of municipally owned land for installations of the towers, and James has spoken of that already. The improvement of broadband aligns with the County of Brant's economic development strategy and action plan, specifically Pillar 2, Objective 2, and Tactic 5, which reads, supporting BME to identify internet access demand, service gaps, and opportunities to service areas of high priority. And then finally, the creation of the Brant Connects Advisory Committee, this group meeting here today in partnership with the Paris and District Chamber of Commerce meeting here today. The last piece is just identifies the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and just wanted to bring you up to date on that and where their position is. And this was provided to us. The Western Ontario's Wardens Caucus, or WOWC as we refer to it, has recognized that the universal access to high-speed broadband connectivity is fundamental to the continued relevance and future prosperity of small urban rural communities in southwestern Ontario. The WOWC Economic Development Strategic Plan recognizes the significance of broadband connectivity to enabling communities in southwestern Ontario to compete in the globalized economy. And the SWIFT program has now awarded 97 projects totaling $268 million. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I'm just going to need a second to get my screens back in order here to be able to follow along on the agenda here shortly, but I will do that. Madam Chair, happy to take what questions we have here or just continue on with the agenda.
I had something I just wanted to mention to you, Russ. I noticed that in your chronological map that you showed us that you had a presentation from John Vantoff, the NDP Minister of Infrastructure, and Pam and I actually sat in on an OCC webinar where he was present and speaking about internet. And interestingly, one of the first comments he made is that 5010 is fast becoming obsolete as a standard for internet service. So while we're all here chasing 5010, I think we need to be very mindful that 5010 is going to leave us behind in terms of, future proofing. So not only do we need to be thinking 5010, but we really need to be thinking much further beyond that, because as fast as we get to 5010 as a standard, that standard may well be obsolete.
Exactly right. And I know years ago when I was working on this in a former life of mine, 25.5 was the big high-speed goal. And now we're talking 5010, and very soon it'll be 100. And already in the States, they have gigabyte services in some cities. So, if Brant wants to develop sort of a strategy around this kind of thing, really one of the things we need to do is encourage technology that can facilitate higher speeds in the future, so that you only put the infrastructure in once. And fiber, for example, from my knowledge, and I'm not a technical guy, but that potentially can provide unlimited speed. I mean, there's always limits, but you end up changing the little technology boxes on either end of the fiber line, right? James, is that how it works?
Yeah, fiber is going to be your most stable until it gets cut, but it's going to be your most stable network connection. And it does have a cap out. It does have a limit to the amount of speed, but your average household will never use that speed. No. People always want faster and faster. When I lived in Ayr, we had a 500 meg connection, and we never used it. We never used that, but it was available, so we grabbed it. Households in Ayr and Brantford now have the ability to get 1,000 meg connection. The faster connection doesn't mean you're going to get a faster speed. You just will not be limited to the speed that you can get, but you're not going to be hampered by the speed. So.
Right. So, and really, you're right. We're never going to use it. If you're a home-based business, you're just not going to get that type of speed requirement. But if we're going to have more services delivered electronically, there's education, there's telemedicine, and on it goes. That's something that, again, a strategy would look at and say, we want our residents and our businesses to be able to access these services. So when we talk to internet providers, for example, we could say, if we had this in our strategy, we want you to put in technology that's going to allow us to achieve higher speeds in the future. That's our preference, and we'll make that attractive for you. And we heard from, I think, ExploreNet at one of our meetings, Sue, that if they can run fiber more to their towers, they can get faster speed from their towers out to the people who are still connected wirelessly, of which there'll be lots of people in the rural areas who still will have wireless connections. But if they can get fiber lines to there and then take people off the towers, put them on fiber, then that'll improve the service for the farmers and people that are still relying on wireless. So, I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves in that type of conversation, but that's sort of what I sort of envisage in a strategy looking at.
Russ, did you have a question? Yeah, had your hand up.
I did, and Dave mentioned it, and happy to move on. I just, Madam Chair, just we're at 6.4 in the agenda, which speaks to the Chamber's presentation, and I think James's presentation, and now that everyone kind of knows what access we all have to being able to see what we have access to through the mapping and what have you. It's presented some opportunities and some highlights for areas that we might be able to gravitate to work on, as well as what Dave's indicated. I think to get to the point where we can truly dig in and discuss those, we do need to get through to terms of reference and get that official stuff kind of taken through and worked through, and then we can dig in. There's a couple of things, right of way of access. If there's an opportunity that we might be able to reduce fees or eliminate fees on that, for example, to expedite with ISPs laying down the necessary framework to have access to what Dave was speaking of. That might be something, but we can't get there until we run through the remainder.
Right. So we're at an hour now. I don't know what everybody's time is like, but can we continue on then and get through our tracker review, Dave, your portion of it, and everybody okay with that? Okay. So Russ, you're saying move on to 6.4 then, and
Madam Chair, I'm just reminding you where we are. It's your meeting. Yes.
Dave, we're going to hear from you now.
Okay, well, and I'll keep it very brief because I think we basically covered everything in the tracker. I just wanted to mention that the tracker is something that the Chamber's put together just to keep track of this, because it's a very, as we all can see, it's a very complicated beast with all kinds of tentacles and various levels of government involved and private sector, public sector, and it can be very confusing just to keep track of who's on first and what's on second and who was it that was on third. Was it I don't know on third? But anyway, some of you are too young to remember any of that skit. But so the tracker, I sent out today an updated version, and it's dated today, and really it's in chronological order, and it's just meant to track some of the the major events or issues that come up in our work. And I'll just keep updating it if that's okay with everyone. And prior to our meetings, I'll just make it available to you. I try and put hyperlinks inside the document, so it's kind of in chart format to keep it simple. But if you really want to do a deep dive on an issue, then you've got the link there that'll take you to more information, that kind of thing. And I guess the other part of this is it's also meant to kind of keep track of things that I haven't expanded the chart, but if there's an outcome that comes out of it, like this is a project that we want to work on, or this is an issue that we really want to focus on going forward, then we can add another column, and then we can kind of see if we're making progress on that particular issue. So I added today a few things that, as it turns out, Brant announced that they're expanding the fiber network, coincidentally, when I had already put that in the tracker, which is wonderful news. I happened to bump into a guy who's actually putting the conduit in the ground, because it's up here around where I live, which is wonderful. But I'm assuming then that Swift is moving ahead with the other projects. That was going to be something I was going to ask today. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been down to those other parts of Brant County, so I don't know Are they going ahead now too, or can anyone comment on that?
Councillor Miller, do you know the answer to that one?
I don't know the answer to all of them, but I do know there's one going around, the Onondaga one's going on, because I've heard from a lot of residents in that area who are not getting it and are very frustrated. So they're obviously digging in that area too. But then I talked to somebody from Harley and he hadn't seen anything. He asked me when it was going to start. I said, I don't know, but I do know it's got to be done by the summer of next year. So.
James, did you want to add to that?
I just want to, and Russ was probably going to comment on the same thing, is that we're not given a timeline on these projects, other than the fact that the SWIFT projects for the county of Brant are supposed to be in the ground and functional by, I think it was June or May of 2023. So we don't know when they're doing those projects. It's just that they're supposed to be operational by May 2023.
So the question too, I was going to ask, are these related to the Infrastructure Ontario funding or not?
Councillor Miller,
I'm not
do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Would it be possible, I'm just throwing this out as a question, to find out, you know, if probably a better way to put it is, I don't know the status of the Infrastructure Ontario program. They said the spring of this year they were going to, I think, award those reverse bids, or if that's the right terminology. Coincidentally, there's a provincial election in June, so it may be that some of these are going to be announced ahead of that or after that or whatever the deal is. But it would be interesting to know if the current round of work that SWIFT is doing is either related to this or not related to this. So,
oh, sorry. You're talking about the 4 billion?
Yes.
Okay, no, it's not. No, that's on top of this. Yeah.
Okay.
That's on top. Yeah. That I do know. I thought you meant like, because there's been so many programs, just so you know, but this 4 billion is to complete everything. Just to put it in context, I'll tell you right now, SWIFT figured out after all we've done in Russ, I think you had $268 million. I thought it was a little more than that because ISPs were throwing a little more in, a couple of municipalities had some more. But SWIFT figured it would take about $2.5 billion to do all the premises that they weren't able to do in the area that they're covered. And the area they're covered runs all the way to Niagara Falls, all the way north up to like Wyerton, the peninsula there, and just a little bit north there of Toronto, like Caledon and stuff like that. So it's a big part of Ontario, but it's certainly not the majority of Ontario. So when they say 4 billion and then SWIFT figures they need at least $2.5 billion to do theirs, I'm not sure that'll be enough. But unless new technology like you know, the Starlink and all that shows a lot more promise than what it does. But right now, I don't think it'll be enough. But anyways, getting back to your question, no, that SWIFT is separate from that 4 billion. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I'll make that point clearer then in the tracker. Just so, for example, then if the St. George Business Park, which I hear has real challenges, and I think Russ, you alluded to that in your presentation. You've had some meetings out there, I guess. Is the St. George Business Park on somebody's radar to improve the services there? Or, I mean, that's come to my attention from some of the people that I talk to out here, that it's really bad there. Do we know? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. Through you, Madam Chair. I think the presentation, we were talking about the operations department. I think it was Paris Road was that business park was where that was being taken a look at there. All of the business parks are always on the radar when it comes to what we can provide in terms of services and you know what's needed and that sort of thing. I think St. George's is any exception. There's challenges with connectivity, and we're doing everything we can to try and pull it together wherever the need is from a business standpoint, and including being a part of this as well. Madam Chair, I just also wanted to, if I could, was asked, the news release came out just prior to our meeting, really, and it was unfortunate because we just Dave just sent the tracker updated, and I had to say that, well, it's already out of date. Here's a news release that came out. But the question was asked where else, and I'll just read it just so that it's on record here for it. The project covers 4 separate areas within the county of Brant. The northern portion of the project area services the community of Harrisburg in an area northeast of Paris. The eastern portion of the project area services the community of Onondaga in an area east of Canesville and Brantford. This central portion of the project area services communities of Newport and Birch, as well as an area west of Mount Pleasant along Pleasant Ridge Road, County Road 7. And the southwestern section of the project area services the communities of Cathcart, Harley, Fairfield Plain, Northfield, and Calvin. So those are the project areas in the announcement that came out today. I think James had something.
Yeah, James, you had a question.
I just wanted to add to that, and there's more about Dave's question regarding the business parks, and then also to what Russ just said about the announcement that came out on that mapping site that I showed you. When you go in there, the very first level that's turned on is the actual SWIFT project areas, and those are the areas that are announced on that that announcement that came out today. So it has more details on where it is versus just Harrisburg. It will actually show you. And Dave, to your question, SWIFT is going to run down German School Road, and it does have a short portion going up Trillium, which is the south end of the business park in St. George. So will it service that area? Probably. So.
Right, and thank you, James. I did notice that little stub going up there, and so I was hopeful because I think that's really important, and it goes back to sort of this idea of a strategy where, you know, what are our priority areas? And it doesn't matter who provides the service, who cares, as long as the businesses get access to it and that sort of thing. So that's good. So basically, Madam Chair, I'm finished I wasn't going to talk long, but I did on the tracker. So over to you again.
All right, thank you. So if I'm correct, has the county gone through everything they wanted to go through? James and Russ, have you covered off on everything? I know we need to get to terms of reference. So you're happy with where we're at? One comment I want to make, because I know this was something that when we were speaking with ExploreNet, they mentioned in terms of the kind of assistance they'd be looking for from this type of a committee. Russ, and you alluded to this, is permitting was one thing they mentioned that they could really use some help with. And access agreements was the other thing they talked about. If they want to use a tower that belongs to somebody else, you know, trying to streamline that process of applying for access. So those are 2 things I wanted to just make sure we've got on our radar in terms of what we want to try to do here to make this. Yeah.
Madam Chair, couldn't agree more. We get through the terms of reference. That might be a great way to lead off as you know, perhaps. Councillor Miller might be able to speak to this, but it might be an opportunity to move a motion that speaks to access agreements, and if staff could review them, and the opportunity to work to you know, advocate to allow the work to get done in that permitting system to be less restrictive.
Yeah, just to say, yeah, I got a lot of notes. I don't know if we'll have time to get to it today, but talking, because as I sent out that email earlier, I thought maybe we get a chance to talk about the Building Broadband Faster Act, and they do talk about permitting and rights of way and all that stuff. So hopefully we can get into that later. And I don't know if we want to submit comments too by April 7th. So, but I'll leave that till we get through the terms of.
Okay, so I think now we can move on then to the terms of reference.
Hey, Madam Chair, can you just back up a bit?
Sorry.
If I could just get a motion to approve the agenda, that would be great.
We had Pam.
Hey, Pam, and seconder.
I'll second.
Rick, thank you. And just with that, I just wanted to note the addition of, we're just going to talk about the meeting schedule frequency under other business. So we'll talk about that right after the terms of reference. That's it.
Okay.
So Madam Clerk, we should approve that as amended then. I'm just kidding.
Yes, please.
So terms of reference, Madam Chair, do you want to go into that?
You got those in front of you.
I do.
So if we want to, yes, we're going to go into that. Dave, I'll let you speak to it if you will.
Okay, well, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions here. I had sent a draft through to you, Russ, and I think that went out with the agenda package, right? And then we got something from the clerk yesterday, which is, I guess, I'm a little confused about what this version is compared to the one that was in the agenda package. Is it intended to replace the one that's in the agenda package? Or is this your version, or can you explain that?
I can, through you, Madam Chair, to Dave. So the terms of reference that were provided from the Paris and District Chamber of Commerce, they're kind of reformatted into the terms of reference that are consistent with advisory committees for the County of Brant in terms of the headings and that sort of thing. The actual pieces of information under the headings were condensed and aligned to the report that was approved by council to set this committee up. So they can both be, my suggestion is they can both be reviewed and looked at, but there would have to be an arrival of what we wanted in terms of specifics in those terms of reference to be able to move forward with them.
Okay, so we start, so we're going to work off of the one that we received from the county then, Dave. Okay, have you got a copy of that in front of you that you can see?
I do, yep.
All right, so starting with purpose. Do you want me to read these out to you all so that you have, or have you read the document over?
I'm assuming everybody has a copy, right?
Madam Chair, Briar, would you have it electronically? You can share the screen by chance, or
Could do that. 1 second.
it'd just be easier to speak to.
Evan, I don't have the share screen option. Oh, just kidding, guys.
Okay, so no can do that. Oh, here it comes. That's it. Okay, so purpose. Anybody have any issues with the purpose of this broadband committee?
I'm not clear on what, if I can, Madam Chair. So if you go back to what we presented to council about the development of a strategy, I'm not sure whether that would appear in the purpose or in the mandate in this format. Because if you go back to the format of our draft, the purpose and scope of the committee was really to focus on the development of a strategy with 5 different components. I know that the staff report, it seems, didn't touch on that specifically. So that's my question. Russ, is the development of a strategy not something that we're focusing on, or in this draft?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would say that if there was discussion of a strategy, an arrival of a strategy that was to be taken, it would be probably part of the mandate as opposed to the purpose of this. I think the purpose of this is essentially, it boils down to getting the best high-speed connectivity and internet to as much of the county as possible, and that's
right.
Speaks to.
Perfect.
In the mission statement, how we're going to go about it, and the mandate would be sort of the tactics that would lead us to achieving that purpose. And if it's the wish of this committee to develop a strategy or develop specific actions or advice rather that can be presented to council, where council would be able to discuss and discern from it, and then provide direction to staff, absent of completing an actual strategy, that would all end up in the mandate.
Okay. Dave, you
yeah, so I guess the challenge that I see is trying to reconcile with the mandate in your draft with what we presented, and I'm sure we can do it. I think in our earlier discussions about this joint group was to try and come up with sort of a high-level strategy and not get too bogged down in the technical stuff, and also recognizing that internet services are really provided by others. And I also recognize that the county is involved with SWIFT and other groups as well. But I wonder about, if you go back to our draft for a minute, it talks about a couple of other things. For example, you know, what kind of advice would we have around future-proofing the service? And we talked a little bit about that. Does the county want to have any kind of preference if internet services are being provided as to your preferred technology? You know, is it better for fiber, and then what's next? Is it satellite next? Is it wireless next? What are the pros and cons of each? Maybe wireless is the only way that you can deliver services in some rural areas of the county, but maybe high speed through fiber is a better way to go in many cases. Doesn't mean that you're requiring somebody to do it, but that's your sort of preference. So that was one of the bullets. The issue of the mapping of what services are available was also covered, and we touched on that today. So a strategy might, you know, have some things in it about monitoring the speeds that people are getting and making sure that, keeping an eye on the providers and the government to make sure that we're getting funding in those areas that are unserved and underserved. What are the roles of the players? We talked about the county doesn't provide the service, but are there other roles? So we touched on the official plan. Is there some official plan policies, and maybe this committee can provide some advice or not? I mean, that's why we're talking about it here. And then the last two items we had in our purpose in our draft was around the short-term and long-term infrastructure projects that the county sees as a priority. So we talked just a minute ago about the business parks, you know, maybe, and those are mostly in the rural areas. We have some in some of the settlement areas, of course, but are those areas a higher priority? Are home-based businesses a higher priority? That kind of thing. So I know that we've touched on that in our discussions today, but those kinds of points I was kind of hoping would be addressed in the mandate.
So Russ, I see where it's mentioned, you know, making recommendations, that the committee can make recommendations provided to County of Brant Council. Could we also, though, have in there to create a longer term strategy as well to future-proof plans for broadband connectivity?
Madam Chair, James might have something to mention on this. I'm just going to ask if I can hit pause on that for just a moment, James. The short answer is that this is an advisory committee, and you know, advising, for example, advising this committee makes the motion recommendation to advise council that a strategy be completed, and ask for some specifics of that strategy, and ask staff to take part in that. That's yes. I mean, that's how we arrive at these through the advisory committees. I will mention that bullet 3, everything that is mentioned in the sample or the example that was provided by the chamber that Dave spoke to, those 5 points can be covered, as well as anything else that might come up through discussion through bullet number 3 of the mandate, where identification of other potential opportunities to leverage existing efforts pertaining to connectivity and or new projects that would advance connectivity. So it can all live in there. And if it's determined that it is a strategy, a full strategy, and the different components of that strategy, you thought that was something that you wanted to suggest to council that they take a look at, and provide direction to staff, then that it could live in there. If something else came up that we haven't discussed, it can live in there as well. That's why it's kind of left a little bit sort of open-ended, so to speak. Whereas the example that David provided is very granular. It's very specific. So if it's in the mandate, but we determine one of those, I don't know, for example, one of those just doesn't seem relevant, then it's kind of made the mandate, that section of the mandate, irrelevant as well. So that's why we've left it kind of open-ended like that. That would be my response to that. I don't know, James, if you had anything to mention there.
Through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo that Russ, you did a great job on pretty much what I was going to say is that, Dave, your 5 bullet points are very, very specific, that if one of those things changes, then the mandate or the purpose and the scope of this advisory committee has changed too. I don't think we want to get down to the fact that we want to say it has to be fiber optic or wireless. I think we just need to make it open-ended, and what Russ had said about his 3rd bullet point, identify other potential opportunities, is more broadband, for lack of better terms, no pun intended there, more broad for this committee.
If I could just jump in too, I think we I think you got to be careful getting too far into the weeds with a purpose or a mission statement. And again, I'll go back to Swift. I know I sound like a broken record, but as far as technology goes, they kept it open, and it was a big discussion there. Like how, fiber's good. That's not to say new technology doesn't come along or improves, on existing stuff. So they never did ever say this is the technology that we prefer. What they did say at the end of the day was this is the standard you had to hit. How you got there is up to you guys, because you guys know your equipment best. But like I said, I don't want to see too many weeds in the purpose or the mission statement.
Okay, so we can leave it, Dave, if you're okay with that, we leave it a little more open-ended and see what just comes up organically out of the discussion going forward, and then we can get into details, a little finer details, after we've determined what our priorities are based on the discussion that takes place. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, so mission statement. Is everybody happy with the mission statement?
And we did the mandate, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if we discussed the mission statement. I think we kind of skipped over it. I think we did the mandate. General, number 4. We're going to follow procedure bylaw, code of conduct. We've elected the chair and vice chair.
Can we move the screen up, please?
The committee is dedicated to working with council to assist in the efforts for greater, faster, effective, high-speed internet connectivity, and staff will be directed by council based on recommendations given by the committee. All good?
I think so.
Okay. All right, number 5, terms of office. All appointments at discretion of council. The term of the voting members of the committee shall be 4 years. I was surprised to see that. Gosh, I hope we can get lots done sooner than that. Is that typical? A 4-year?
Madam Chair, I think Brant might be able to speak to that. It runs with the terms of council.
Of the council, right?
Yeah, other advisory committees are also 4 years. So I think Russell, that's why you have that. And if we get our broadband done, maybe we'll turn this into the giant hogweed committee or something like that.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button there, but yes.
Okay, understood.
What you could say is up to 4 years, because my understanding then would be that this group would be reconstituted again in the fall, after the election this year or in the winter, which is fine. I don't know as the chamber ever anticipated it would last 4 years, but I think we can get a lot done in 6 months or a year, personally. But I'm not sure 4 years is, I know it has to be that way for council appointees for sure. But if you set up to 4 years, then that gives some flexibility.
Dave and I might be retired by then.
Yeah, that's right.
Through you, Madam Chair, if Council Services, if Briar representing Council Services is fine with that.
We can make that change.
We can make that change.
It's the will of the committee.
Just
Yep,
something
I
like,
think that's an easy one, right?
yeah, I hope so. Yeah, something like that, Briar, doesn't have to be voted on. We can just make the change.
Yeah, so what we'll do is when we get through like the whole terms of reference, we'll do a motion to receive them as amended.
Okay. All right, so then we've got number 6, committee composition and qualifications. The committee will consist of a maximum of 9 members. We have 5. We have a staff member from County Brant Dev and Tourism and Business Technology, Russ and James, the mayor, who sends his regrets, by the way. I didn't say that at the beginning, and I should have, because I spoke to him yesterday and he did have another conflict, so couldn't be with us today, but does fully intend to join us for future meetings, just so I don't miss making that announcement. And the council liaison to SWIFT, which is Councillor Miller, correct? So I think that's all good. Number 6.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the only thing I would add is that in our draft that we sent to the county, we had proposed, I think, 11 members. And the idea of having 2, so the split 5-4 is still there, but there would be 2 additional business people at large, I guess. Doesn't mean that they're large business people, but they're at large. To try and get from our rural areas some perspective. So for example, maybe somebody from the St. George Business Park or
Agriculture.
Agriculture is another one. I'm not sure the Brant Business Park down where Adidas is, for example, to try and get their perspectives as well. And I didn't see that carried through in the county's version. So I just wondered if there was a concern there or an issue or.
I can speak to that, Madam Chair, if you like. Briar, can you scroll that down just a little bit further, please? Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. The administration and reporting section, staff resources, liaisons, and other staff as may be required. Oh, that's not it. Up above it, sorry. Other staff and delegates may be invited to provide technical support at times when required. As it's not regular purpose in advisory committees having members at large. So this was a way to be able to, you know, depending on what it was that was being discussed, the topic of the day, whatever this committee thought was an area of focus, that we'd be able to go out and you know, bring in an agricultural operator or bring in someone who works in one of the business parks to provide discussion over a series of meetings or a single meeting, and be able to utilize it that way.
So there is an opportunity for us to get some input, Dave, from members of the business community.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of anticipated that. In addition, you know, if we needed to have somebody come in and tell us about, you know, the latest on fiber or agri technology or something, we could do it. But I kind of saw the need for us to have some business people on the committee on an ongoing basis. But at the end of the day, it's just in our draft. So if this group feels that what we currently have is fine, I'm fine with that.
Anyone else? Okay, well, then I think if everybody's in favor of having the nine will stand, and Christine, you've been very quiet. We haven't heard from you. If you ever want to have any input, please feel free to speak up because I don't want to leave you out of this.
I will do so. So
All
far,
right.
I'm absorbing info. I feel like I'm like the newest one here, so I've just gotta get the lay of the land before I start voicing my opinions.
Well, we don't mind you voicing because we're happy to have you here. And I think you do get some input from people in the rural areas as to the kind of services that they don't have. So you could probably, yeah.
I will.
So, okay. All right. So moving on then, we're on number 7, committee administration and reporting. ECDAV and Tourism Division, Business Technology Division, you're going to provide the technical support. Other staff may be invited. We just talked about that. Staff resource liaisons and other staff as required. So you're going to annually prepare a report of the previous year's activities. Will we be doing interim reports at all, Russ? Anything? I'm just thinking to share with membership and that type of thing. We'll be getting any kind of interim updates.
For you, Madam Chair, if that's the if that's the role of the committee and staff are directed to provide the reports, we'll put the reports together. It shouldn't be terribly difficult, to be honest with you, especially we have that tracker. We can grab the information from there.
Okay, all right, because it might be a nice thing to be able to keep membership updated, the community updated as we go along as to our wins and losses as we go. All right, so number 8, meetings. Meetings to be held once monthly at a date and time set by committee. Length of meetings depending on the agenda. Committee may choose not to hold meetings during the summer months. They are open to the public, subject to Section 239 Municipal Act. Members can attend but not participate, and meetings cannot conflict with regular meeting of council or standing committees. If you miss 3 consecutive meetings without dispensation, you may be removed and the vacancy filled. And the chair may call additional meetings to discuss urgent matters, but must give sufficient notice, which would be what? A day, 2 days, 3 days?
Whatever's in the procedural bylaw, so you have to ask the clerk, Pat.
Yeah. Do we know, Briar, what's sufficient time?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can
Okay.
find that for you guys.
Okay, just so we know what would be acceptable.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so anything in there of concern or anything you'd like to see added, deleted? Nothing. Okay, number 9, quorum and voting procedures. Calculation of quorum is a majority of members not met within 15 minutes of the scheduled commencement time. We can adjourn the meeting until the next regular meeting and record the name of the members present. And the meeting can continue for informational purposes only. No decisions can be made. Briar, can you scroll down for me? Because for some reason I didn't get that page printed off when I did the print off. Thank you. Okay. So anything in that section, sorry, in number 9, was there anything on the quorum and voting procedures that anybody, any issues with that? Pretty straightforward. Okay, number 10, minutes and agenda.
Madam Chair, I'm just going to interject. Staff don't vote when it comes to advisory committee meetings. So
and I'm assuming I don't either. How is there a rule around the chair and the vice chair? Are they voting, non-voting?
No, you'll be voting.
We'll be voting. Okay. Okay. Number 10 then, minutes and agenda. Minutes of each meeting will be prepared, report submitted to Administration and Operations Committee for approval, and the agenda will be prepared by County of Brant staff. Meeting schedules, agendas, and minutes will be made available to the public through the county website. And can we make those available as well on our website?
apologize. I have trouble finding the mute button on Zoom. Use Teams all day long. Sorry about that. Once they're public, probably the easiest thing to do is a hyperlink on your site to the county.
Okay. All right.
So I had a question, Madam Chair, just a clarification, if I can, on this, is when it says that the meeting minutes have to go to the committee for approval, what does that mean exactly?
That we've captured all the information, I'm assuming, but what does that mean? Is there more to it than that?
So through you, Madam Chair, what that is all of the minutes have to be rectified by council. So all the advisory committee minutes, they all go to a standing committee, which will then go to the council for the final approval. It's just sort of an approval process.
Okay. And so really, if the minutes aren't approved, then what we've done isn't approved. Is that fair?
Yeah,
I see.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the next one says that the staff are going to be preparing the agenda, which is great. I'm assuming that means with our input, right, from the committee?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I assumed that would be the case. I just didn't want to see the agenda going out without our involvement in it.
Yeah, no, you guys will definitely be aware.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay, so Briar, does that mean then you'll send that agenda, like a draft copy, out to us a few days in
so
advance?
there's a few things that we can talk about. Like I'm used to doing pre-meetings, and we can do that if you guys want, or we can talk about like email correspondence. But yeah, we can figure that out with the chair and the vice chair, and we'll meet and discuss to see what's on the agenda for the upcoming meetings.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, just as a committee member, anybody can bring forward an agenda item, right?
Yes,
So,
and that's
just got to make sure it's to the clerk and, approved by the chair ahead of time. So.
yeah.
Okay,
Great.
right. So we're good on that one then, Dave?
Yep.
All right, number 11, terms of reference. To establish a regular review of the terms of reference for the committee. The review should generally take place prior to the end of the first quarter of the 4th year. So here we are back to that 4th year again of a term of council.
And it may not be relevant for this. I'm just sort of speaking off the top of my head because we're right into that zone almost already. So we've basically done it. It would be reviewed again after the new council's elected, I'm assuming.
So do we need to change that wording?
Madam Chair, I would say no. Dave is kind
No,
of.
I agree. Yeah, but I'm just saying we've done it.
We're there
Look
now.
at that.
This is it.
We're
This
so
is it.
efficient. We've done it already.
That's right.
Wow, one thing we can knock off the list already. I like it.
There you
Okay.
go.
So should staff or the committee find it necessary to recommend amendments to the terms of reference? Such a review and recommendation will be provided to the Administration and Operations Committee and to Council by way of committee report. So we have the ability to change up these terms of reference, but there is a process we have to go through in order to get that approved as well. Okay, I think we're
Right.
good with that. Anything else? All right, so Briar, is there anything we need to do from your end now then to do a vote on? Hang on, you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyways, so if I can get a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
If I'm
Terms of
allowed-
reference or the agenda as amended?
agenda.
Oh, what did I say? Terms
Yeah,
of
agenda,
reference. Sorry.
yeah.
Terms of
Okay, okay, yes,
Thank you. Okay, so
so moved.
and seconder. Rick, thank you. Okay.
Okay, are we through? I think yes, Dave?
Oh, I thought I was waiting for all in favor, but I guess I'm assuming that was.
And all in
Thank you.
favor to adjourn? Well, I'll ask if unless anyone has any questions? Yes, Councilor.
Sue,
Wong.
I got a question. I know what Dave's saying. We usually, when you get a first and a second, then we hold the
All in
vote.
favor?
Okay.
Right.
And I'll bring this up only because April 7th, they were looking for on the registry comments regarding the Building Broadband Faster Act. And I don't know if James or if there was any comments you thought we should make. I don't know if you had a chance to read that or not.
Through you, Madam Chair, I have read through the act briefly. One of my staff members, Michael Hoban, is in charge of that. So I would refer to him on comments on that if we have any concerns.
Okay, and just as a municipality, I have a couple concerns. I don't like I don't know how many members read it, but it's it's only 102 pages. But what I don't like is the fact that it's more of a use the big stick approach versus use the carrot approach, and they are asking municipalities, for permits, right-of-way permits within 10 business days. It's interesting that they give the MTO, which is a provincial department, 35 days, but they're saying that municipalities get 10 business days. And I just know Barry Fields, he's the chief executive officer of SWIFT. He says that's pretty tough to meet for a lot of municipalities. So, and then the other thing, what was I looking at? There was, there's going to be costs to the municipality as far as somebody has to input all this information into the broadband one window application. It's an online portal. So there's costs anyways. There's impacts on the municipality. So what I'll do, maybe if the committee's okay, I'll maybe forward my comments on to Michael then, and maybe if he's got some too, we could put something in, just to touch base with that. But
so for you, Madam Chair.
Yep.
For you, Madam Chair. David, if you want to contact Michael Hoban or the Operations Division, they've been working together because the Operations Division does the right-of-way permitting. We've been involved just because of the technology aspect of the act. So that would be through Rob Walton then.
Okay, and I understand why they want to speed up. I got that, but I don't like the fact that they treat all municipalities in the same basket. Like some municipalities, they have a pretty thin staff. You know what I mean? Other ones have lots. So to treat them all the same, I don't like that. But those are just some thoughts I had as I read through. So, okay.
Okay, and Dave. Cash.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the councillor has obviously a very valid point. Having worked in the municipality myself, it's just another one of those beauty downloads that the province slams our way. And by the way, MTO tells everyone else what to do. Now, the province never tells MTO what to do. Anyway, that's another whole story. And so if there's some things that we could do as a committee, councillor, to assist you with providing comments, I think we'd be willing to, more than willing to help in that regard. But it sounds like the permitting is something that internally you guys are looking at. I seem to remember reading that you guys can charge fees, right, for doing all this work. At least this act allows you to do that. So I wouldn't hesitate to do that, because these guys are going to be charging the money back through their service. But if you need, to hire a consultant and I'm just talking off the top of my head, a consultant to expedite a particular engineering review or something like that, then these guys should be paying for it. And I would be willing to bet that some of them would be willing to pay for it if it meant they were going to get their permits faster. But I know we do that, or when I worked in the municipality, we would have that with our engineering reviews and our planning reviews. If they wanted something faster, they paid, and they paid dearly for it at the end of the day. Now, I would also just add that when we talked to one of our internet providers, they did say, and I know, Councillor, you're aware of this, that not all municipalities are great in this regard. Obviously, Brant's doing fine, but some places they just drag their feet, and then the electric utility companies, use it as an opportunity to get all their poles upgraded at someone else's expense. So there has to be some kind of balance there, so that the internet providers can, get on with doing the work without being held to ransom, which I have seen. So just to recap, if there's something that this committee can do, to support you, Councillor, in terms of providing comments, just let us know and we'll look at it, I would say.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I just, if you look at the way council works, we always work on this cycle, this monthly cycle. So, because sometimes things have to go to council for approval, not always come at the end of the month. So, but I do appreciate, because you mentioned that in the email about, there are municipalities, there are, whether it's an electric, an LDC or anything like that, dragging their feet. So I hope we don't. So I guess it's our job as a council to make sure that doesn't happen. So, but I will take you up on that offer to help with the comments.
Super.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments? I think we've been an hour and 50 minutes. Thank you, everyone. I thought this one might be a long one just because it's the first, but appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for doing this. I think this is a worthwhile exercise, but I think we are at a point now where we can adjourn. So could I have a motion? Yes, Russ?
Sorry, Madam Chair, just quickly, it's all right with the membership. Now that we've gotten through that and it's established, perhaps this would be a great time. It was referenced a couple of times, and I couldn't agree more with the mention of Wellington's approach. And I'd be happy to ask that the booklet, the handbook that they created, that we send this out to the members of the committee. Everyone can have a look at it, and excuse me. I know it did for our team as well. Germinate some ideas of what we could take on and what might be ways of advancing, connectivity throughout the county and things that we can do both as staff in the county, as well as residents, how they can make use of the resources that are available to them. A lot of times they don't even know the resources are there, such as the ones that James was mentioning earlier. So the book does a good job of filling in a lot of blanks and gaps, and would be a great place to start on identifying things that we might be able to tangibly replicate here in the county of Brant in some form. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I think it's what Dave alluded to is what's the point in starting from scratch if there's a really wonderful reference document that we can utilize and, as you say, R&D it. So yes, I think that's a great idea. Okay, anything else? Yes, James.
That's for you, Madam Chair. When I attended the January webinar conference from the Ontario Connects, they did indicate that if there were municipalities that wanted questions answered or a representative come talk to them, they'd be willing to do so. So I'm just wondering, instead of us trying to figure out from the bottom up on what they're doing, shall we have them come talk to us about what they're actually doing?
I think that would be a great idea, and perhaps goes back to my earlier question about, the whole Infrastructure Ontario process. If they're going to be moving forward with awarding those bids, how are we going to know about it and understand that it's being done in the areas that need it, I guess. So let's do it. Madam Chair, do we want to meet 1 month from today?
Same time frame? Check my calendar.
I was just thinking James would then have a date that he could work with to get somebody to come, I guess, or attend rather. I guess people don't actually go to meetings anymore. They attend virtually. Well,
depends, but I mean, I think at this point, that's how we're planning on holding these meetings until we decide otherwise. So
I think Rick Soroka is in a Tim Hortons because that's where he gets the best broadband coverage.
I have to. Nothing out here.
All right. So if we're talking a month from today, we're going to be out about the 20. We could go out the 21st.
Could we push it to the 28th, Madam Chair?
Or the 28th. I was just going to say.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes. We will be at the AGM. Yeah,
that won't work for us because we're at the OCC AGM.
That's fine. 21st is fine.
I mean, we don't necessarily have to do a Thursday unless that tends to work well for county people. So if that works well for you, I'm okay with it, except the 28th, as Pam says. So we'll go with the 21st, everyone?
That sounds great.
Okay, everybody's good. Christine, you're good for that?
Through you, Madam Chair, same time?
Yes.
Same time, start time?
We'll make it a 1 p.m. start time, and we'll try to get it down to a 1 hour meeting if we can. It's really, as you said, it's going to depend on the number of agenda items, but I don't want to keep
It
you for
depends
too
on
long.
the chair.
Yeah, that too.
You did a
I am
great job.
Yeah, I love trying to make people stick to an agenda, but yes, we can do that, I think. So, all right. So if everyone is happy, we're ready to adjourn. Yes, Briar.
Motion for you. Sorry, Madam
All
Chair.
right, no worries.
If we could get a motion to receive all presentations and correspondence for information.
Sorry, say that again. I missed that last bit.
It's just a motion to receive all presentations and correspondence on the agenda.
Okay, so
See,
I'll move it. Yep.
Thank you.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you.
all in favor? See, I remembered to do it that time. Okay, wonderful. All right.
Your
Now,
quick study.
if I could have a motion to adjourn, please. Rick, Mr. Soroka, second. Wait, we don't need a second on a motion for adjournment, do we know?
No,
Good.
no.
See, I remembered that too.
Thank you
Okay,
to all. Thank you to all.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you. That was a long one. I promise we'll make the next one
Very
shorter.
good meeting.
It was a good meeting, and I'm
informative.
really happy to see all of you, by the way. Thank you for doing
And
this.
it's nice to see James's airplane too, that he flies on the weekends.
And look, no mask.
Yeah,
And no
even
mask,
better,
that's right.
even better.
Take care. Thank
Okay,
you.
folks.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye.